Brodes Media.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Yes, we are still going to discuss this horrendous Eagles team. Before we dive into the action, if you are new to the channel, make sure you smash that subscribe button down below and also hit the thumbs up button. I greatly appreciate all your support. I love you. You are the best. And real quickly, if you're looking to go to any NBA game, NHL game, now that the winter sports are back in action, an NFL game, you can go to SeatGeek and utilize the promo code Brodes for $20 off of your purchase. It is a no-brainer. Get yourself to a game. Eliminate all the fees right then and there. Promo code Brodes. And yeah, enjoy your time. And with that being said, enjoy your time listening to the show. What is going on, everyone? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Brodes. Today doesn't feel any better. I waited all damn day to hear Nick Sirianni speak, and I knew it was going to be a bunch of nonsense. I just had to deal with all of the long waiting, right? It's supposed to be early in the day. Well, then today we hear this session is going to be at 4:45. Oh, what's that? 4:45 comes around. It's pushed back to 5:30. Oh, what's that? He's still not showing up at 5:30. Now it's 6:15. And yes, there were transactions to keep your mind on, and that's why it was pushed back. And at the end of the day, I don't give a damn about Joe Flacco being moved for a sixth that can be a fifth. I care about getting answers about what we saw yesterday afternoon that was a flat-out disgrace. And Joe Flacco not being here doesn't impact my life whatsoever, doesn't impact the true importance of what is the direction of this franchise. So to wait until that, like, no one needs to be spending time asking about Joe Flacco. So I'm glad we got to the seriousness of some of the action yesterday, and there was a lot to go over, right? Hey, who has autonomy with the defense? Is it you, Nick? And have you spoken to Jonathan Gannon about that? And I love the response. The responses are just garbage, and his tone and the way that he's bouncing around with his words. He has no idea. He's talking out of his ass. He has no good complexion in his voice when he's standing up there, which is what we noticed day one when he got first hired, which is there's too much going on for him to fully comprehend and for him to answer the questions because he doesn't have answers because he's not competent to be an NFL head coach. And that's why this team right now doesn't look competent, which goes back to the front office. See, my issue right now is Jeffrey Lurie is a serious issue. Howie Roseman is an issue right now. The head coach is an issue. Jonathan Gannon is an embarrassment, and the quarterback stinks as well. So your five most important positions in an NFL franchise has lost their damn mind right now, which is why you're witnessing the constant beatdown and why you're seeing Brian Baldinger on the Baldy breakdowns going, this is high school. This is college, actually. Excuse me. He said college. He went down the college route, and I even mentioned specifically last night on the Instant Reaction pod when Ngakwe's up there doing jumping jacks, blocking a pass. Like, these play designs are putrid, and it works in the SEC, it works in the Big 12, it works in these college offenses when the disparity in skill is so wide that you can give it to a Devontae Smith, you can give it to some of these playmakers in college, and they can actually get upfield and make it work. This is the National Football League, so it's completely different. And you heard me mention Howie Roseman, and I have been more on the side of he's not as bad as what you said he is. That's my big narrative when it comes to Howie. I'm easily willing, and I've been very vocal about this. If he ever gets canned, you won't hear a peep from me saying it's a mistake. I'm very aware that it could be warranted to fire Howie Roseman. Now, will Jeffrey Lurie do that? Probably not. It took him a long time to get over the Joe Banner thing, but it's interesting I bring up Joe Banner. So here's my point on why I feel the way that I do about Howie Roseman. I was told by Sixers fans Brett Brown was the biggest reason why he was one of the worst coaches in NBA history. Well, now you have Doc Rivers, and those same people now look at Doc Rivers as a coach that sucks and is horrible and is pathetic. Well, he's a Hall of Fame level coach. Just for what it is, I was told Brett Brown was the worst ever. He's not as bad as what you thought he was. Might not be the right guy for the job, but he's not as bad as what you thought he was. That was always my thought on Brett Brown. Carson Wentz, I was told this guy sucks. He's absolutely miserable, and there's no way that he can play here again. Well, he doesn't suck. He's absolutely not miserable, but there's a time where you need to freshen things up. It was time to move on from Brett Brown. It was time, unfortunately, due to how toxic it was in the environment, for Carson Wentz to go to another city. But he doesn't suck. You're seeing that with Indianapolis. After their tough stretch to the season is now starting to move into a direction that favors them, and they're no longer playing lethal teams every single week. Yeah, they look like a better team as they got some flow and structure under their belt. I was told Gabe Kapler was the worst manager in history, and I was a part of that, but that was somewhat of a wake-up call to take a deep breath. Now you have Joe Girardi, and those same people are looking at Joe Girardi, who's a proven winner, and say that he needs to be canned. He's a major reason why the Phillies absolutely blow. You see my point here? Everyone sucks. Everyone's the worst. Nobody's ever good enough. What's the next alternative? All these alternatives throughout all the other franchises, you still want fired. So what I do with that information with Howie is, and at the end of the day, right now, it blows, and right now, this franchise is so damn lost that it's sort of like with Carson. It doesn't matter what you've done in the past. It doesn't matter where you once were. Reality is, right now, under Lurie and Roseman, it's a disaster, and there needs to be a whole new sense of ideas and a whole new sense of analytics and who's running the show. Everything has to change from top to bottom right now because it's a mess. But that doesn't mean what we've seen in the past wasn't good or there wasn't any sort of success under Howie. There was success under Howie. You're not getting it right now, and that's why, I'm throwing up the flag. We're like, yeah, right now, there's no defending any of this nonsense. It's so damn ridiculous. It's so damn pathetic. It's so damn bizarre that you need to have a serious, fresh, huge identity change, a huge facelift. But I use all that data of all these other. But Jim Schwartz is the worst defensive coordinator in the world. That's what I was told for so many years. No, he's not. He's a very good defensive coordinator. Now you see the alternative, and you want Jonathan Gannon out of here as well. So I use all that to kind of describe why I felt the way that I have over X amount of years with Howie. But at the end of the day, I'm not stupid. I see the same football that everybody else sees right now, which, this is so unacceptable. This is an incompetent football team, and that falls on the owner and the front office in general. But I personally, as much as I'm willing to shake everything up at this point once again, Jeffrey Lurie is the biggest issue because he's the one that has this set in place the way that he has. And I brought up Joe Banner earlier. My point is everybody wanted Joe Banner gone because they said he absolutely sucked. And now those same people are looking at Howie Roseman. You see my drift here? That's all. But regardless, all of that is irrelevant because, like I said, at the end of the day, we're all witnessing the same product. And there's no defending this product whatsoever. It is abysmal, and I don't know if it's going to change. So you can look at their cap space. You can look at their draft picks that they're adding on to, and it's clear that they're looking at this retool. But the problem is there's a difference between a retool and then a absolute fucking disaster. And this falls in the category of an absolute fucking disaster. Really. It does. You don't have a head coach. You don't have a defensive coordinator. You don't have a quarterback. And right now, your front office is in shambles. So there's a difference between a retool when the right people are in place to change that, but I don't have trust. There was a time where I thought I had more trust in them, but right now it's out of control. And Jeffrey, we remember the Jeff McClain articles, the Jeff McClain pieces of diving deep in the analytical process and who's making the decisions and who's giving out this data. It's nonsense, and it probably correlates to what we're seeing with Nick Sirianni after the game seriously mentioning, well, we declined that penalty because our play sheet would tell you to go for it there, and we were afraid that the Raiders would go for it there, so we put them back to 3rd and 15, which they cashed in on anyway, which is just horrendous football to decline that. There's a reason why the referees were confused. There's a reason why the Las Vegas Raiders had their punt team out, because not everybody has the same damn analytics there, Nick Sirianni. If that was the case, the Phillies wouldn't blow. The Phillies would be like the Rays, and they'd be like the Dodgers, and they'd be like all these good teams that are operated in the right way. But no, instead, the Phillies stink because they used the wrong numbers. You're probably using the wrong numbers numbers there as well, which I think correlates to all the drafting. You're talking about all these numbers and Jalen Reagor and all these pieces. Well, Davion Taylor, the numbers, there's probably all these numbers and information that they're using that's just not working to solidify some of these picks. We know that the owner and Jeffrey Lurie told Doug Peterson, I don't like the way you won that game. Change it and start throwing the ball more. We know that the owner put his handprints all over J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. Does that just change out of nowhere? No, it's probably continuing to happening, and it's happening in so many different areas where he is the number one culprit for me. That's where my head is at. That's where my eyes are set at, and I've defended them for a while, saying under Jeffrey Lurie, all I've known is success. But there has clearly been a shift in who they are and a shift in how they're built. And maybe it's as simple as they won the championship, they won the Super Bowl, so they thought that they knew everything. They thought they had everything set, where this is somewhat of a reality check and a smack in the face. Can I see Jeffrey Lurie admitting that Nick Sirianni is a problem? Probably not, which means we might be going through another season of this, which would be a disaster. When you know there's an issue, there's an issue. When you see that there's a problem, there's a problem. You nip it in the bud and you move on. It's unfortunate. Nobody wants it to be this way, but instead of continuing to drag things on, let's just get back to the chase here. See, and I keep playing with myself internally here. Well, that could have sounded a lot worse, but I keep going back and forth in my head about if Howie Roseman and Lurie were in place still, but they had legitimate coaches. Let's just say hypothetically that they do bring in someone like Brandon Staley from the Chargers, and there's reports out there that one of the reasons why he did not come to Philadelphia is because of the front office, which we have heard before when you look at the Buffalo situation. Hey, why don't with Dable we have a conversation? I don't know if I want to be connected with Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman. So there is this drama around the league that, hey, we don't want to go there because we might not have the power. There might be some fight back. We'd rather go with someone who's going to be a puppet. That is an issue, and that all stems from the owner. And there's a reason why Howie Roseman is still in place for all the people that want to specifically target Howie maybe over the owner. Like, there's a reason why he's there still. And that is because of the owner. The owner is the one that starts this all with where this identity is as an organization right now, and that needs to change. He needs to admit that there is a problem, and until that happens, you're really not getting the change. But I'm just saying, would I feel differently about where this organization is if they just had legitimate, competent coaches that maybe could put this team in a better position? Maybe I would. And quite frankly, I think the answer is yeah. If they had coaches that knew what the hell they were doing, if Andy Reid was here, if John Harbaugh was here, right? I'm just being honest. Let's take a step back and say Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman are still in place. And that doesn't mean Howie deserves to keep his job if this is what we continue to see week in and week out. But I'm playing a hypothetical with you right now. If John Harbaugh, if Andy Reid was your head coach, would you feel better about where this team is? Would you expect 2 wins, 3 wins? Would you expect this dead of football every single week, even with the same front office? My answer would probably be no. But the issue is you have 5 problems, and all 5 positions in power that are the most important are those positions, and that is something that is a serious major concern, and I just don't see it going away right now. I don't. Do I see Jeffrey Lurie firing Howie, moving on from Sirianni, and shifting gears as soon as he already did what he did this past offseason? Probably not. They probably view it as, look at how we're set up. And they're not set up poorly, to be honest with you. And I always go through this. The Washington football team, their defense went from great to they stink. The Giants went from a good defense to they stink. It's not that hard over a 2-year span to flip things around in football. And the Eagles are set up properly to do that. It just comes down to how do they execute it. They're actually set up pretty damn solid. They can't mess it up, though. Here is their chance. Here is their chance. I'm a huge track record guy. They've seen success before. They know this is not it. At the same time, though, it's been bad. I mean, there's just no denying it. It has been really bad, and they're starting to get mocked. Jeffrey Lurie doesn't like to get mocked, though. So would that put pressure on him to maybe make a decision quicker than he normally would? Does this change the way that he's accustomed to? See, everyone wants change all the time. Look at some of the best organizations in the sport. The Pittsburgh Steelers, Mike Tomlin. I hear from Steelers fan that this guy stinks. He's the worst. He's awful. Okay, please, look at the resume. There's a reason why the Steelers don't have turnover every single year in the major positions. Let's talk about of course, like coordinators and all, sure, but head coach, Mike Tomlin. Just look at the way that they're ran. There's a reason why. I mentioned the Ravens. There's a reason why. Like, switching every single year is not a recipe for success. Changing GMs all the time is not a recipe for success. Constantly making turnover decisions is not how you succeed in this league. At the same time, though, when it's recognizable, no matter how long they've had, instead of just continuing down that path, I think it's better for you to admit the mistake and just look properly at, okay, this is seriously bad. This offense is getting mocked. They're playing a collegiate level offense that cannot move the ball at all. They don't do the simple things. And then I'm hearing the coach say, oh, we're getting better each and every day. Well, then he was pushed back on. What were you better at, Nick? Let me know where you see growth. And then he gives us this horrendous analogy of, it's not always like this. And he's putting his hands up forward in this peak type of way as if it's like a huge spike, a huge rise upwards. Sometimes it's little tiny growth. Oh, it's the fundamentals. Nick, the fundamentals are going south, my friend. The fundamentals are going completely in the wrong direction. He's just telling us garbage. So I wait all day to hear it. And then 3 minutes in, I'm vomiting out the mouth just listening to his tone and the way that he's seriously a mess. And he's overpowered and he's overmatched. They hired the wrong guy. Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman did. Right now, he's incompetent. 5 years down the road, is he a different type of person? Maybe. But what they sold you is not what you're getting. And that goes for Gannon as well. So we have a bunch of anytime hotline calls. That's going to be what we're rocking today as we move forward. But first, the NBA is back, and at DraftKings Sportsbook, an authorized sports betting partner of the NBA, the key to victory is a strong starting five. New customers can bet just $5 on any NBA team to win their game, and if they do, you win $200 in free bets. So why not make your roster Washington, 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 and oh yeah, Washington. DraftKings Sportsbook customers can also get skin in the game with the new same-game parlays. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code Brodes. Bet just $5 on any NBA team to win their game and win $200 in free bets. If they win, you win with promo code Brodes this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an authorized sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 or older. Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. In partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, let's kick things off here. The Anytime Hotline, here we go.
What's up, Brodes? Just want to say that I appreciate the content, even through all this disgusting Eagles football that we've been subject to watch. But, man, I've been a fan for a long time, man, of the Eagles. Also a fan of your channel, man. You're my go-to when it comes to Eagle sports talk. But I'll tell you what, man, this team has lost me. If I'm the Eagles, I'm resetting the whole thing, man. Get rid of Howie Roseman. Get rid of Nick Sirianni. And I hate to say it, but get rid of Jalen Hurts. These guys do not work in the NFL. None of them. And honestly, this is the most disgusting Eagles football I think I've ever witnessed. They play with no physicality, no heart, no passion. They're not disciplined. All around, I think I'm in the same boat as everyone else when I say this team sucks and is trending in the wrong direction. They need to clean house, and it starts with getting rid of Howie Roseman.
Yeah, I agree. I have no arguments with that. I have no problems with it. It's pretty damn clear. You know, there's a difference, like I said earlier, of being a team that's reshaping and rebuilding and losing some football games just because the other team have better weapons and they're a better all-around squad that's more ready to win. And then there's this, which is a team that doesn't even deserve to be out there on the field whatsoever. And that dives deeper than just, the roster construction is poor and they don't have many linebackers, right? I mean, even with what they have, you can do significantly more. I'm watching Baldy's breakdowns, and the fact that Quez Watkins is getting one target so deep into the game, it takes you 30-plus minutes to target someone like Quez Watkins. They're just not coached very well. The scheme isn't good. I'm not telling you these guys are world beaters, but with what you have, you can get better out of it on both sides of the ball. Everyone's talking about how much talent they don't have on the defense. I literally watched Jim Schwartz, with less talent than this, do more. or if not with the same exact talent, do way more. So please spare me with this. I'm not telling you that they're fantastic at all. They are horrendous in linebacker position. They spend the least amount of assets and money in the linebacker position in the entire league. It needs to be better there. You need better playmakers. I'm just saying, I witnessed a DC in this organization over the last 5 years give me way better than this slop of let's react. Imagine being a defensive player. Seriously, imagine being a defensive player on this team that your whole life, all you want to do is be aggressive and attack the opposing quarterback and hit them. But we're told just wait for them to catch it and just react to what they do and just be very lackadaisical in your approach. Don't you think you're going to lose your entire team when you do that? And there's a reason why Fletch is making the statement that he is. You're losing Jason Kelce, and I know that's the offensive side, but I'm just saying, Jason Kelce's frustration, warranted, and you're seeing it. Fletch, warranted, and you're seeing it. McLeod, warranted, and you're seeing it. Smith, warranted, and you're seeing it. The team is being lost right now, and the Detroit Lions, that's going to be a very, 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 very telling sign on what happens there. That could really lose it to a whole nother level. And you mentioned Jalen Hurts, right? It's clear to me that you have to go in another direction. Here's a comment we saw in the comment section here at Brodes Media, and this is from a listener, Shaheen. So I appreciate you, Shaheen. I just disagree completely with what you're saying. Despite losing, I thought Jalen Hurts had a decent game. His stats say otherwise. He was 18 of 34 with 236 yards, 61 rushing yards, and 94.7 passer rating. So if anyone is wishing for him to be benched, I'm just here to say that would be an absolute dumb move on the Eagles' end. If he puts up good numbers, why bench him? I'm telling you, you didn't watch the football game if that's what you're looking at afterwards is the box score, because everybody knows when you're down 30 points and you see the other team just giving up and allowing for you to kill time off the clock, this is when he's getting a lot of his numbers. So you clearly just did not watch the game whatsoever. The head coach can't call any good plays. They don't have a defense that can cover anybody that allows receivers to get wide open. Also, give credit to Sirianni for committing to the run game. He still needs to be better as a play caller, though. I mean, what are we doing here with that type of information? And speaking of being down 30, I got to read to you. Let me go to, I read this off on Coffee with Brodes this morning, but if you were not there, tuned in, hanging out, I'll throw it this way. This is courtesy of Jeff Mosher of Inside the Birds, and this is the, hold on a second. Was it under the Stop the Bleeding? Or no. This was from last night. Yeah, here you go. Nope, sorry. Wrong one. Give me 1 second here. I have to find this stat. Here it is. It's in Grieving, Las Vegas. Here's the stat, okay? The Raiders converted 3 third downs on their first quarter drive, on their opening possession. After that, they did not see a third down until their second possession of the third quarter. That's 37 consecutive plays in that span without seeing a single third down scenario. That's almost unheard of. That's how bad Jonathan Gannon is. So to summarize, 1, thank you so much for the kind words in the beginning of the call. Number 2, yeah, there is a serious problem with Jonathan Gannon, Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni, Howie Roseman. I would absolutely 1,000% look in another direction and kind of clean slate this bad boy. I just don't anticipate that happening. I bet you Howie has the chance to work with these assets, and then from there we'll see what happens moving forward. But, yeah, I mean, I'm not pulling for that at this point. I once had more faith. I don't anymore, and I just think it's absolutely 1,000% time to kind of make a huge shift here in the Eagles organization.
There's so many different ways you can look at this, so many things to say, but I'll just say this. I've been watching the Eagles for over 40 years, and I've seen some bad teams. I've seen teams that their offenses were pure manure, but the one thing I could count on even as a kid was that the Eagles could play defense. They would be competitive. They would lose games 14-10, 17-14, but even in the pre- and post-Reggie White years, they could play defense. This team is gutless. This team is soft. This team has no ability whatsoever. The coaching staff is an embarrassment. And again, as Brodes has said many times, it goes back to the two Stooges. We've changed the coaches. We've changed the players. But what hasn't changed? Lurie and Roseman. And until those two guys are ostracized from this team, this is what we're going to see on a weekly basis.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but that is reality at this point. So, like I said earlier, there were times where I went back and forth with people saying Howie Roseman is not as bad as you think he is. Well, right now he is. Like, he hasn't in the past. I thought people were way too hard. The guy won a Super Bowl, and it's like, oh, well, he just got lucky. No, that's unfair to him. Like, at one point, you, the fan, gave him the label Howie Season. But like I said earlier as well, it's irrelevant because at this point, the Stooges, and I called them the Three Stooges during with Doug Peterson. It was Doug, Howie, and Jeffrey Lurie. I haven't really gone in that direction in quite some time. The identity of the franchise is now getting into that area of, and I won't say they're not in Jets territory land yet. They're not in the Cleveland Browns territory yet. And we've never seen them really get to that true dark stages in a long period of time. So for me to imagine it getting to that area is just something that I'm not willing to go down yet, but I'm not rolling it off the table knowing where the trajectory seems to be headed, which is this version of football. And it is just nonsense at this point. It's totally unacceptable. And you can't have a team that has no heart. We'd be willing to at least go through seasons of learning about things if there was still fight in the team and realizing that, it might not be perfect right now, but there's things that you can hold on to. Let me ask this question. When you study this football team, what in the world can you hold on to? Devontae Smith? You can't hold on to Miles Sanders. He actually is injury prone. He's always banged up here, a hamstring there. The updated news on him is a couple of weeks that he might be out with this ankle injury, and you could see the replay, that right ankle when he was shifting his weight and trying to go to his left. You could tell that it rolled over, but, there's really not that much to hold on to. Landon Dickerson seems to be having some rookie struggles. Jordan Mailata is definitely banged up. I don't think he stinks by any means. I thought last week was more of a product of flip-flopping all over the place, and we just take it for granted what that's like because it's like, oh, you're still playing tackle. But no, there is a serious difference in the way that you're lined up and the way that you go about your day and about your business consistently. It's definitely different when you're flip-flopping, but there's really nothing other than Devontae Smith to truly hold on to, and that's just not good enough. So this brand of football, it won't last. It will not last here. We won't allow it to as a city. The pressure will be on, and this is not the Phillies where John Middleton can slide away for X amount of years. This is not the Sixers where you can get away with tank mode, and I love this too, right? There's so many people out there that claim, well, I just want to tank at this point. Don't worry about tanking. All right, it'll happen naturally. You'll be losing a ton of games nonstop naturally. If they win games and they win against the Jets or they win against some of these teams in the division, Washington or whatever, I'm not going to be upset about it. I still want them to go out there and try. They're not going to lose on purpose, but trust me, you'll lose plenty of games just by going out there and attempting their best, which is hot garbage at the moment. They had 10 days. They had extra. They had a mini bye to focus on how they were going to adapt and change their identity, and they did absolutely nothing. They were a mess. And even defensively, like this is kind of to approach more of the roster side of things, even though I'm very clear on even with your roster, you could do better. There were a ton of missed tackles. So let's be real here. Even if we're looking at the player perspective, right? These players cap out because they're not very good and they have a ceiling and their ceiling's not strong. But even within their limited ceiling, they're still giving you 70% of what they can even bring to the table. Missing tackles, Derek Barnett, sloppy all around, Eric Wilson. I mean, they're embarrassing, but I still think even within their limitations, these players, and maybe it's a lack of buying in, it's knowing they're not very good, and then there's the snowball effect of the locker room and guys just not giving maximum effort. I even mentioned Jalen Hurts as well. I watched him a few times slide and give himself up where if this was a high leverage game or this was a game that was close in a winning team, I bet you his determination would be, let's get this first down or let's not run out of bounds. It's different than saying, oh, I don't want to get injured. I'm a quarterback. I don't want to get injured. This wasn't the I don't want to get injured slide. This was a I'm just giving up slide, and that's totally different, and we're not accustomed to seeing that from a kid wired like Jalen Hurts. I think that's a microcosm of where the team is right now.
Brodes, look, here's my initial thoughts on the game. I think the game plan looks like the game plan was centered around Miles Sanders because they had success running the ball in the first drive. But once he got injured, that just took the sails out of the Eagles' offense. And yeah, it was a shit performance all around, but and we only got anything done in garbage time. But to whoever's ability, man, I really don't know at this point if Jalen Hurts is the guy. There's nothing that's showing me that he is the guy, and Sirianni really doesn't seem to make adjustments because, I don't know, maybe we just didn't have anything going out there Miles Sanders engine, but
I think it's honestly both. I think Nick Sirianni is bad, and I think Jalen Hurts is bad. Jalen Hurts cannot make the simple passes while I'm watching Derek Carr just zip the ball through over and over and over again. Here's some more crazy stats. This one's courtesy of Ruben Frank. I saw this earlier today, and he always has some fantastic stats and things that will absolutely blow your mind. But let me scroll through here. Hold on. There's a lot of tweets happening about the situation with Joe Flacco. Was this last night or was that this morning? Maybe I'm doing a terrible job of the good old tweets today. But, here you go. In the Eagles' first 1,285 games, they allowed 8 quarterbacks to complete 80% of their passes. In the Eagles' last 5 games, they've allowed 4 quarterbacks to complete 80% of their passes. That is just mind-blowing. And I know that doesn't have to do with the defensive coordinator whatsoever in Jonathan Gannon, and it doesn't have anything, it doesn't have anything to do with Jalen Hurts. It has more to do with the defensive coordinator, Jonathan Gannon, but it just put it in perspective of the way Derek Carr throws the rock and the way that these NFL caliber quarterbacks consistently make these throws. I don't want to bash the kid. There's a lot that has to go into being in the right atmosphere and having the proper personnel around you and having a coach that can put you in the right positions. But at the end of the day, I think the talent speaks best. And Sam Darnold's the perfect example. Oh, he went to the Panthers. Everyone thought that would change him. And through the first handful of games when they played slop and garbage, it did. And then look what happened when he played a bad team, when he played a couple bad teams. He got benched. They couldn't beat the Eagles. And with the Giants, they look sloppy. At some point, reality speaks. And what I'm seeing out of Jalen Hurts is a little bit of the reality of the kid can't play, which puts it in perspective of what you did when you drafted him in the second round and whose decision was that? Who wanted to go with that mentality when you had Carson Wentz and this whole quarterback factory nonsense? And I know right now everyone's opening up the door for Gardner Minshew and what should they do and this and that. And quite frankly, I don't give a damn. I don't care. Jalen Hurts isn't the guy. I would have Jalen Hurts play every single game this season knowing he's not the guy. Now, Gardner Minshew, here's the argument for the Gardner Minshew crowd. Well, he's here next year. Not that he's your franchise guy, but he's here next year on that rookie contract. Is at least something to figure out what the hell he is and get him some snaps. Maybe by week 14, 15, 16, 17, when you already know what Jalen Hurts is, which we kind of have already established that, but once we get deeper in the year, maybe it's a different scenario. I mean, maybe, whatever. But right now, I'm not even close to making that decision. But I'm just saying, I wouldn't be heartbroken week 8, 9, 10, 11. Like, at that point, shit. I got 9 other issues right now, which is how the hell are we going to turn this thing around? It's not about Minshew at this point. It's, okay, my mind is on what do we do now to get out of this mess and out of this toxicness more so than learning about anything quarterback related, right? I mean, that's where we'd basically be at.
Brodes, man, that was ugly, man. Just ugly. The whole time I'm watching that game, I'm thinking that you were talking about last year of the summer, you could do worse than Jim Schwartz. And boy, did we ever. And that's Jonathan Gannon. Nick Sirianni didn't help. Jalen Hurts doesn't look like the guy. But like I said, Nick's not helping. Put him in a traditional offense and try to develop him that way. I mean, the RPOs obviously aren't working. You got to do something different. And the Lions, man, I'd rather be losing like the Lions. They've been in every single game that they've played except for the one before the Rams. And the Eagles aren't. Eagles are just getting their asses handed to them.
Nonstop. And you're right. I always was, actually, there was a time in my life where I was very, very, very hard on Jim Schwartz, and then I came to my senses. That was early on in my career where I would just rip Schwartz, and even with Gabe Kapler, I would rip Gabe Kapler. Then I realized I'm being way too knee-jerk. I'm being way too reactionary. I'm being way too, emotional involved. Let me take that away and really study what's happening here. Jim Schwartz was a very good defensive coordinator. Let me be clear. He was a very good defensive coordinator that people took for granted. And, that's kind of the approach that I'm taking with a lot of these now. It's like, okay, with Howie, let me assess his entire body of work. There were some tough moments in really bad drafts. How much of that is Lurie involved in, and how much is these new analytical guys involved in, and how much is Howie involved in? And with that also, He's had good moments. He won a Super Bowl, and he's not the worst general manager to ever live in the history of the sport, like some would say. With that said, we are now in a position, though, where this organization is an absolute mess, and someone has to be held accountable for that, and it starts with the front office. So, the quarterback and the head coach and all these people, they're all bad. Like, all of it is bad. This is how you get to what we're witnessing now. It goes back to last year. What went wrong last year? There were 9 million reasons. The front office put the quarterback in a bad spot. The front office put the head coach in a bad spot. The head coach also was bad. The quarterback was also bad. The injuries were also bad. There were 9 million reasons why you get to 4 wins like we saw last season. Well, right now, Jeffrey Lurie stinks. Howie Roseman stinks. Nick Sirianni stinks. Jonathan Gannon stinks. The quarterback stinks. All of this is true, and for it to look this way, it's got to be everybody in this same path of they're lost, and they have to snap out of it and find a way, and I just don't anticipate seeing that anytime soon, unfortunately, which is very disappointing for sure. So with that, I do need to let you know that the Anytime Hotline is brought to you by Orbit Energy and Power. With over 20 years of industry experience, Orbit Energy and Power is home to your solar experts in both residential and commercial projects. At Orbit, they're dedicated to making sure that your product is completed easily and properly. Orbit also provides water purification systems, backup energy services, battery storage, electrical upgrades, new roofs, heating and cooling, and so much more. So make sure you check out their information at orbitenergy.us or call 800-836-3987 for more information and check them out. So with that being said, thank you all so much for listening, and I will see you next time.